The moment my family dragged me to sign the divorce papers, I knew they'd finally won. Or so they thought. My fingers trembled as I held the pen above the signature line, my sister Melissa's perfectly manicured nails digging into my shoulder. "Sign it already," she hissed. "You've been married to that vegetable for 3 years. It's pathetic." I looked at the unconscious man in the hospital bed. My husband, Adrian Blackwood. The machines keeping him alive beeped steadily. The only sound he'd made since the car accident that had put him in a coma 3 years ago. The same accident that had happened just 2 weeks after our wedding. "The Blackwood family has already agreed," my father said coldly from the doorway. "They're cutting off his life support tomorrow. They need the marriage dissolved today so the estate transfers cleanly to his brother Marcus." Marcus Blackwood stood in the corner, unable to meet my eyes. He'd been kind to me these past 3 years, but even he believed his brother would never wake up. What none of them knew was that I'd lived this moment before. In my previous life, I'd signed those papers. Adrian had woken up 3 hours later, 3 hours after I'd given up on him. He'd searched for me for years while I'd been trapped in a marriage my family had forced on me with their business partner's son. I'd died at 28, poisoned slowly by my own sister, who wanted my husband and my inheritance. But I'd been given another chance. I'd been reborn at 21, the day before my family had first introduced me to Adrian at a charity gala. This time, I'd pursued him myself. This time, I'd married him for love, not for the business merger my family wanted. And this time, I knew exactly when he would wake up. "No," I said quietly, setting down the pen. The room went silent except for the steady beep of Adrian's monitors. "What did you say?" My mother's voice was sharp as broken glass. "I said no. I'm not divorcing him." Melissa laughed, the sound cruel and mocking. "You're delusional. He's been in a coma for 3 years. The doctors say he'll never wake up. His brain activity is minimal. You're 24 years old, wasting your life on a corpse." "Then that's my choice to make," I said, standing up straighter. My father's face turned red. "You ungrateful little... We've supported you for 3 years while you played nursemaid to a dead man. The Blackwood family is dissolving the trust that pays for his medical care. After tomorrow, you'll have nothing." "I have my job at the hospital," I said. It wasn't much. I worked as a translator for international patients. But it was enough to survive. "That job?" my mother scoffed. "The one we got you through our connections. Consider yourself fired." I'd expected this. In my previous life, they'd done the same thing. Except I'd already been divorced and homeless when they'd taken everything away. "Furthermore," my father continued, his voice growing colder, "if you don't sign these papers right now, you're no longer our daughter. You'll get nothing from us. No inheritance, no support, no family name. You'll be completely cut off." "She's bluffing," Melissa said, examining her nails. "She's always been weak. Remember when she was 15 and tried to refuse the engagement to the Chen family's son? She caved within a day. That engagement had been to a boy who'd tried to assault me at a party. In my previous life, the trauma of that near miss had made me eager to marry Adrian when my family had finally released me from that commitment. This time, I'd fought harder and won my freedom sooner, allowing me to choose Adrian myself. "I'm not 15 anymore," I said, "and I'm not signing." My father pulled out his phone. "Then it's done. As of this moment, you are no longer part of the Liu family. Your accounts will be frozen within the hour. Your apartment, which is in my name, will be cleared out by tomorrow. Your car will be repossessed. You'll have nothing but the clothes on your back." "Father, please," Marcus Blackwood interjected. "That seems excessive. She's been devoted to Adrian." "Stay out of our family business," my mother snapped at him. "You should be grateful we're not suing for the years of resources wasted on this marriage." I walked over to Adrian's bedside and took his hand. It was warm, alive, despite what everyone thought. In my previous life, I'd learned that he'd been conscious for months before waking, aware but unable to move or speak, listening to everything happening around him. The thought of him hearing me give up on him had haunted me until my death. "I'll stay with you," I whispered to him, quiet enough that the others couldn't hear. "I know you're in there. I know you can hear me. I won't leave you again." His fingers twitched slightly in mine, so subtle that no one else noticed. But I knew. Just like I knew that in exactly 3 hours and 17 minutes, his eyes would open. "You're insane," Melissa said. "When they turn off those machines tomorrow, you'll be a widow with nothing. At least if you divorce him now, you can still marry someone else while you're young." "Someone like Chen Wei?" I asked, turning to look at her. "Is that why you're so eager for me to divorce Adrian? So you can push me back to the Chen family?" Her eyes flickered with surprise before she recovered. "Don't be ridiculous. Chen Wei is engaged to the mayor's daughter now." That was a lie. In my previous life, I'd discovered that Melissa had been taking bribes from the Chen family for years, promising to deliver me to them. Chen Wei's obsession with me had never faded, and my sister had been more than happy to sell me to fund her luxury lifestyle. "Security!" my father called out. 2 hospital security guards appeared in the doorway. "My daughter is no longer authorized to make decisions for this patient. She's to be removed from the premises." "Actually," I said, pulling out a document from my bag, "as Adrian's legal wife, I have medical power of attorney. This document was filed with the hospital 3 years ago and witnessed by the chief of staff. You can't remove me, and you certainly can't make decisions about his care without my consent." My father snatched the document, his face growing darker as he read. "This is... How did you..." "I've had 3 years to prepare for this moment," I said. In truth, I'd filed it immediately after our wedding in this life, knowing what was coming. "It doesn't matter," Marcus said quietly, though he looked troubled. "The Blackwood estate is still cutting off funding. The hospital won't keep him here without payment." "Then I'll take him home," I said. Everyone stared at me. "You don't have a home," my mother said slowly, as if speaking to a child. "We just told you." "I have a home," I interrupted. "Adrian and I bought a small apartment together before the accident. It's in both our names. You can't touch it." This was another change from my previous life. Originally, we'd lived in the Blackwood mansion. This time, I'd convinced Adrian to buy our own place, small and modest, but ours. "You can't provide medical care for someone in his condition," Marcus argued. "He needs professional." I'm a certified hospice care provider," I said. "I've spent the last 2 years getting my certification while sitting by his bedside. I can manage his care at home." "This is insanity," my father roared. "You're throwing your life away for nothing." "If it's nothing, then why do you care so much?" I asked. "Why are you all so desperate for me to divorce him today, right now, hours before they supposedly turn off his life support?" The room went quiet again. My family exchanged glances. "Unless," I continued, "there's something you're not telling me. Like the fact that Adrian's grandfather's will has a clause that if Adrian dies while married, his entire personal inheritance, separate from the family business, goes to his widow, not to the Blackwood family, not to Marcus, to me." Marcus's face went pale. "How did you know about—" "I pay attention," I said. In my previous life, I'd only learned about this after Adrian had found me again, years later. His grandfather had liked me, had seen how I'd stayed faithful even when everyone told me to give up. The inheritance was substantial, enough to live comfortably for several lifetimes. "You little gold digger," Melissa snarled. "That's what this has always been about, hasn't it? You're waiting for him to die so you can take the money." "If I wanted money, I would have divorced him and married Chen Wei like you wanted," I shot back. "His family offered $50 million just for the engagement. I said no." $50 million? My mother's eyes widened. She turned to Melissa. "You told us they offered $5 million?" Melissa's face flushed. It's not..." "You've been skimming," I said calmly. "Taking bribes meant for the family and keeping 90% for yourself. Check her accounts if you don't believe me. She's been funneling money through offshore accounts in the Caymans." "You're lying," Melissa said, but her voice shook. My father was already pulling out his phone, calling someone. His face grew darker with each passing second. "How long have you known?" he asked me after hanging up. "Long enough," I said. In my previous life, I'd discovered her embezzlement after she'd poisoned me, when it was too late to do anything about it. "This doesn't change anything," my mother said, though she was now glaring at Melissa. "You're still cut off if you don't sign." "Then cut me off," I said. "I choose my husband." They left then, my parents dragging Melissa with them. She was screaming about lies and conspiracies, but my father's grip on her arm was iron. Marcus lingered for a moment. "He was lucky to have you," he said quietly. "I'm sorry about all of this. The family pressured me, but I should have stood up for you both." "Take care of yourself, Marcus," I said, "and maybe think about why your family is so eager to pull the plug on someone who still has brain activity." He frowned but left without another word. I was alone with Adrian now, just the two of us in the steady beep of machines. I glanced at the clock. 2 hours and 43 minutes to go. "I know you heard all of that," I said, stroking his hand. "I'm sorry about my family. They showed their true colors, didn't they? But don't worry, I've got everything handled." I pulled out my phone and made a call. "Dr. Morrison? Yes, it's Emma. I need the home care equipment delivered to our apartment today." "Yes, everything we discussed. Thank you." Dr. Morrison was the only one who believed Adrian might wake up. He'd seen the subtle signs, the finger twitches, the occasional change in breathing patterns when I spoke. He'd helped me prepare for this day. Next, I called someone else, someone my family didn't know about. "Grandfather Chen? It's Emma. Yes, I'm ready to accept your offer. But only the legitimate business partnership, nothing to do with your grandson." "Yes, sir, the contract we discussed. Thank you." Grandfather Chen had always liked me more than his own grandson. In my previous life, he'd been the one to investigate my death and expose my family's crimes. This time, I'd approached him secretly, offering to translate for his international medical equipment company. The pay was triple what I'd made at the hospital. I'd just ended the call when I heard a commotion in the hallway. My family was back, but this time they'd brought lawyers. "One more chance," my father said. "Sign the papers or we'll have you declared mentally incompetent. A woman who refuses $50 million to stay married to a vegetable is clearly not in her right mind." "Try it," I said. "I have 3 psychiatric evaluations from the past month stating I'm completely competent. I knew you'd try this." The lawyers whispered among themselves, looking uncomfortable. "Furthermore," I continued, "I've already filed a restraining order against Melissa for harassment and embezzlement. The police should be arriving any minute to arrest her." "You what?" Melissa shrieked. Right on cue, 2 police officers appeared in the doorway. "Melissa Liu, you're under arrest for embezzlement and fraud." As they handcuffed her, she screamed at me, "You've ruined everything. You were supposed to be the weak one, the stupid one. I'm the one who deserves—" "What you deserve," I said quietly, "is exactly what you're getting." My parents tried to intervene, but the police had financial documents. Documents I'd been quietly gathering and submitting for months. In my previous life, Melissa had used that embezzled money to buy the poison that killed me. This time, she'd be in prison. After they all left, my parents following the police to the station, I was finally, truly alone with Adrian. I checked the clock. 30 minutes. "Almost time, my love," I whispered. "I've waited 3 years to see your eyes again. In my last life, I failed you. I gave up just when you needed me most. But not this time. This time, I choose you. I'll always choose you." I'd spent 3 years preparing for this moment. 3 years learning medical care, building my own career, gathering evidence against my family. 3 years talking to Adrian every day, telling him about my day, reading him books, playing his favorite music. 20 minutes. A nurse came in, Sarah, one of the few who'd been kind to me. "I heard what happened," she said softly. "Are you really taking him home?" "After he wakes up," I said. She gave me a sad smile. "Emma, honey, you know the chances." "Stay for 20 more minutes," I said. "Please, just stay and watch." Something in my voice must have convinced her because she nodded and stood by the wall. 10 minutes. Adrian's breathing changed, so subtle that Sarah didn't notice, but I did. His fingers started moving more frequently. 5 minutes. His eyelids fluttered. Sarah gasped and moved closer. "Adrian?" I called softly. "Can you hear me? It's Emma. I'm here. I've been here the whole time, and I'm not going anywhere." 1 minute. The machine started beeping differently. Sarah ran to get Dr. Morrison, and then, exactly 3 hours and 17 minutes after my family had tried to force me to divorce him, Adrian's eyes opened. They were the same warm brown I remembered, confused and unfocused at first, then sharpening as they found mine. Emma, he whispered, his voice hoarse from years of silence. You stayed. Always, I said, tears streaming down my face. I'll always stay. Dr. Morrison burst in with several other doctors. The next hour was a whirlwind of tests and examinations. Adrian was weak but responsive. His brain function was normal. It was, as Dr. Morrison called it, a medical miracle, but I knew better. In my previous life, Adrian had told me that he'd been fighting to wake up for months, but my voice had been his anchor. When I'd left, when I'd signed those papers and walked away, he'd lost his will for just a moment. But then rage had filled him. Rage at his family for pushing me away, rage at my family for their cruelty, and rage at himself for not waking up sooner. That rage had given him the final push to break through. This time, I'd given him something better than rage. I'd given him hope. How long? Adrian asked after the doctors had finished their initial tests. 3 years, I said. His face crumpled. I'm so sorry. You wasted 3 years. No, I said firmly, taking his face in my hands. I spent 3 years loving you, waiting for you, preparing for our future. Not a single moment was wasted. But your family, I heard them earlier. They cut me off, I said, and it's the best thing that could have happened. I'm free of them. My family wants to pull the plug, he said, his voice bitter. I heard Marcus. We don't need them either, I said. We have our apartment. I have a job. We'll figure out the rest together. Adrian was quiet for a moment, then said, There's something you don't know. My grandfather left you a personal inheritance separate from the family business. I finished. I know, your family knows too. That's why they were so eager to have me divorce you and then end your life support. How did you... Never mind. He squeezed my hand weakly. You always were too smart for your own good. Marcus arrived then, his face white with shock. Adrian, you're awake. Disappointed, brother? Adrian's voice was cold. No, God, no, I'm so happy. And to my surprise, Marcus seemed genuine. I never wanted this. The board, mother, they all said, but I never wanted to lose you. Yet you were ready to sign off on ending my life, Adrian said. Marcus's shoulders slumped. I was weak. I let them convince me that you were gone, that we were just prolonging your suffering. I'm sorry. Adrian studied his brother for a long moment. I heard you, you know. These past few months, I heard everything. You read to me sometimes. You told me about the company, about your doubts, about how you missed having your older brother to guide you. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. You heard. I heard it all, Adrian said, including Mother's visits where she talked about stock prices and inheritance divisions. Marcus winced. She's not well, Adrian. After Father died, she became obsessed with protecting the family legacy. She thought if you were gone, it would be cleaner. And you? Adrian asked. I thought I was doing the right thing, Marcus admitted. But Emma, your wife, she made me realize something today. You still had brain activity. You were still in there. We were just too afraid to hope. The next few days were chaotic. News of Adrian's awakening spread quickly. The media called it the miracle of love, much to my embarrassment. The Blackwood family tried to sweep in and take control, but Adrian shut them down quickly. I heard every word spoken in this room for months, he announced at the family meeting they'd called. I know who wanted me dead and who was counting my money before I was gone. The only person who never gave up on me was my wife. His mother had the decency to look ashamed. Adrian, darling, we only wanted what was best. You wanted what was easiest, he corrected. Emma fought for me when no one else would. She lost her family for me. She spent 3 years at my bedside. So, if anyone has a problem with her, they have a problem with me. The room was silent. Furthermore, Adrian continued, I'll be taking a leave of absence from the company. Marcus, you'll continue as acting CEO. You've done well these past 3 years, despite the pressure. But I'll be watching. One wrong move against my wife or me, and I'll return to take everything. We went home to our small apartment that week. Adrian needed physical therapy, but he was determined. I helped him relearn to walk, to write, to do all the things his body had forgotten during 3 years of stillness. My family tried to contact me once. My father called, his voice uncharacteristically humble. Emma, your sister has been arrested. The evidence you provided, she's looking at 15 years minimum. Your mother has left me. I've lost everything. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, though I wasn't. I was wrong, he continued. About you, about Adrian, about everything. You were the strongest of us all. Strength isn't about power or money, Father. It's about loyalty and love. You taught me that by showing me what happens when you have neither. He was quiet for a moment. Could we perhaps start over? No, I said simply. You cut me off, remember? I'm no longer your daughter. That was your choice, and now you have to live with it. I hung up and blocked his number. Adrian recovered faster than anyone expected. Within 3 months, he was walking unassisted. Within 6 months, he'd returned to work part-time, though he refused to take back the CEO position from Marcus, who had proven himself capable and trustworthy. I died once, Adrian told me one evening as we sat on our small balcony watching the sunset. Or close enough. It taught me what really matters. Not the company, not the money, not the family legacy. You. You're what matters. You remember dying? I asked carefully. I'd never told him about my own death and rebirth. I remember the accident, he said. But more than that, I remember floating in darkness for what felt like forever. And then I heard your voice. You were talking about your day, about some rude patient at the hospital, such a mundane thing, but it was like a light in the darkness. I followed that light for 3 years. Adrian, I started, but he continued. And then that day, the day they all tried to make you leave, I heard you say, I won't leave you again. Again, Emma. Why did you say again? I was quiet for a long moment. Would you believe me if I told you something impossible? You stayed by my side for 3 years when everyone said I was gone. I'd believe anything you told me. So I told him. About my first life, about signing the divorce papers, about him waking up after I'd left, about my marriage to Chen Wei, about Melissa poisoning me, about dying at 28, about being reborn and getting a second chance. Adrian listened without interrupting. When I finished, he pulled me into his arms. It makes sense, he said quietly. The way you knew things before they happened. The way you were so certain I'd wake up. You'd lived it before. You believe me. I believe in you, he said. And I'm grateful, so grateful, that you got a second chance. That we got a second chance. A year after Adrian woke up, we renewed our vows. It was a small ceremony, just us, Dr. Morrison, Sarah the nurse, Marcus, and Grandfather Chen, who had become like family to me. In my first life, I said in my vows, I lost you because I didn't fight hard enough. In this life, I'll never stop fighting for us. In darkness, Adrian said in his, you were my light. In silence, you were my voice. In death, you were my life. I promise to spend every day earning the love you've given me. The media went wild when they found out about the renewal. The story of the woman who gave up everything for her comatose husband, only to have him wake up and rebuild their life together, became something of a legend. Chen Wei tried to approach me once, at a charity gala we couldn't avoid attending. You could have had everything with me, he said, cornering me near the bathroom. Instead, you chose a dead man. I chose love, I corrected, something you'll never understand. Adrian appeared then, fully recovered and imposing. Is there a problem here? Chen Wei paled. Adrian had become something of a business legend himself, the CEO who'd returned from the dead to reclaim his empire. He'd taken back the company from his mother's control and had made Marcus his partner rather than his rival. Together, they'd tripled the company's value. No problem, Chen Wei muttered, scurrying away. You know, Adrian said, pulling me close, in your first life he hurt you, didn't he? Melissa was the one who poisoned me, but yes, he was cruel. I could destroy him, Adrian offered casually. His company is vulnerable right now. One hostile takeover and... No, I said, smiling. Living well is the best revenge, and we're living very well. We were. Our small apartment had been traded for a modest house with a garden. Nothing like the Blackwood mansion, but it was ours. I'd started my own translation company with Grandfather Chen's backing, and it was thriving. Adrian had restructured the family company to be more ethical, more sustainable. But the best revenge came 2 years later. Melissa was released early for good behavior after serving only 2 years. She emerged to find herself penniless. Our parents had divorced, and our father had lost everything in bad investments. Our mother had remarried but wanted nothing to do with the daughter who'd embarrassed her. She came to our house one rainy evening, looking gaunt and desperate. "Please," she begged from our doorstep, "I have nowhere else to go." "You made your choices," I said. "I was sick," she said. "Jealous and sick. I've had therapy in prison. I understand now what I did to you, what I tried to do. In another life, I might have killed me," I finished. "Yes, you would have." Her eyes widened. "How could you know?" "Because I know you, Melissa. I know exactly what you're capable of." "I've changed," she insisted. "Maybe you have," I said. "But that doesn't mean I have to forgive you or help you. You cut me off once, remember? You all stood in that hospital room and disowned me for choosing love over money. Now you know how it feels to have nothing." "You have so much now," she said, gesturing at our house. "Can't you spare—" "I have exactly what I earned," I corrected, "through loyalty, hard work, and love. You wanted the easy path, lies, theft, manipulation. This is where that path leads." Adrian appeared beside me. "There's a shelter downtown. They'll give you a bed and hot meals. That's more than you were willing to give Emma when you cut her off." Melissa looked between us, her face crumpling. "I'm your sister." "No," I said firmly. "You were my sister. You ended that relationship the day you tried to destroy my life. And in this life or any other, I'm done letting you hurt me." We closed the door on her. I never saw her again, though I heard she'd moved to another city, started over. Perhaps she did change, but it wasn't my responsibility to find out. 5 years after Adrian woke up, we stood in a different hospital room. This time, the sound filling the air wasn't machines. It was the cry of our newborn daughter. "She's perfect," Adrian whispered, holding her tiny hand. "What should we name her?" I asked. "Hope," he said immediately, "because that's what you gave me. Hope when everyone else had given up." Marcus visited us that day, bringing his own wife and young son. He'd married for love, not business, inspired by our story. "She's beautiful," he said, looking at Hope. "She has your strength, Emma. I can see it already." "And Adrian's stubbornness," I added, making everyone laugh. Grandfather Chen visited too, having become the grandfather I'd never had. He'd cut ties with Chen Wei after learning about his obsession with me, choosing integrity over family. "Little Hope," he said in Mandarin, "may you have your mother's courage and your father's determination." Dr. Morrison, now a family friend, performed a checkup. "Perfect health," he announced, "just like her father's recovery. Miraculous." That evening, as Adrian held our daughter and I leaned against him, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. In my first life, I died at 28, poisoned and alone. In this life, at 30, I had everything: a loving husband, a beautiful daughter, a successful career, and freedom from the toxic family that had once controlled me. "Do you ever wonder," Adrian asked quietly, "what would have happened if you hadn't gotten that second chance?" "You would have woken up anyway," I said with certainty. "You would have found me, saved me from Chen Wei and Melissa. But it would have taken years, and we would have lost so much time. Instead, you saved me," he said. "We saved each other," I corrected. Hope stirred in his arms, opening her eyes. They were Adrian's warm brown, but I could see my determination in them already. "Mama's going to teach you something important," I whispered to her. "When everyone tells you to give up, when the whole world is against you, when logic says it's impossible, that's when you fight hardest. That's when you choose love." Years passed. Hope grew into a fierce, independent young woman. Adrian and I built our companies into empires of our own, separate from the Blackwood legacy, but powerful in their own right. We donated millions to coma research, helping other families who faced the same impossible choice we had. My parents reached out occasionally over the years, but I never responded. They'd made their choice that day in the hospital, and I'd made mine. Melissa disappeared entirely, which was perhaps the kindest thing she could have done. The Blackwood family eventually accepted me, especially after I helped Adrian restructure the company in a way that benefited everyone. His mother even apologized, though I never fully trusted her. Trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. Chen Wei's company eventually collapsed due to unethical practices. He was investigated for fraud and fled the country. I felt no satisfaction in his downfall. He was simply irrelevant to my life. On our 15th wedding anniversary, 12 years after Adrian woke up, we returned to that hospital room where everything had changed. It had been converted to a therapy room, but the view from the window was the same. I still remember every word you said to me while I was unconscious, Adrian said, pulling me close. 3 years of stories, fears, hopes, dreams. You gave me a reason to fight back to consciousness. And you gave me a reason to fight the entire world, I replied. Would you do it again? He asked. If you had to choose between your family's wealth and waiting for me to wake up? In every lifetime, I said without hesitation. I would choose you in every lifetime. He kissed me then, and I knew that somehow, across death and rebirth, through coma and awakening, we had found our way to exactly where we were meant to be. That night, I dreamed of my first life one last time. But instead of the pain and betrayal that usually filled those dreams, I saw myself at 28, dying, but at peace, knowing that somehow I would get another chance, that the universe would give me the opportunity to make things right. I woke to find Adrian watching me, his hand gentle on my face. Bad dream? He asked. No, I said, smiling. Just saying goodbye to an old life. And hello to this one? I said hello to this one 15 years ago, I reminded him, when I said I do and meant it for eternity. Hope knocked on our door then, home from university for the weekend. Mom, Dad, are you awake? I brought someone I want you to meet. We got up, ready to face whatever came next. Because that's what we did. We faced everything together. As we walked downstairs, Adrian squeezed my hand. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For insisting on marrying the brain-dead vegetable, he said with a wry smile. Best decision you ever made. Second best, I corrected. The best was refusing to divorce you. We found Hope in the living room with a young man who looked nervous but determined. The same way Adrian had looked when he'd first asked me out in this lifetime. Mom, Dad, Hope said. This is David. He's in my neuroscience program. He's studying coma patients, inspired by Dad's story. David stood, extending his hand. It's an honor to meet you both. Your story, it changed how the medical community views comatose patients. The 3-year rule exists because of you. The 3-year rule, no comatose patient could have life support withdrawn without family consent for at least 3 years. Adrian had lobbied for it, using his own experience as evidence that consciousness could exist even when the body seemed gone. It's nice to meet you, David, I said, noting how he looked at our daughter. Another love story beginning, perhaps. Another chance for someone to choose love over logic. Later, after David had left and Hope had gone to bed, Adrian and I sat in our garden. The same stars that had witnessed my death in one life now watched over my happiness in another. Do you think she knows? Adrian asked. About your rebirth? Maybe someday I'll tell her, I said, when she needs to know that impossible second chances exist. Or maybe, Adrian said, she'll create her own second chances. She is her mother's daughter, after all. I laughed, leaning into him. And her father's. Stubborn enough to wake from a 3-year coma just to prove everyone wrong. I didn't wake up to prove them wrong, Adrian said. I woke up because you promised not to leave me again. And somehow, my soul knew that again meant more than anyone could understand. The night was warm, peaceful. Somewhere in the city, my former family lived their separate, diminished lives. The Blackwood Empire thrived under Marcus's ethical leadership. Chen Wei was a wanted man in 3 countries, and Melissa, wherever she was, had to live with the knowledge that her younger sister had everything she'd tried to steal. But I didn't think about any of them anymore. They were characters from a story that had already ended. This was my story now, mine and Adrian's and Hope's. I love you, I said to Adrian. The same words I'd whispered every day for 3 years while he slept. The same words I'd been unable to say in my first life until it was too late. I love you too, he replied, in this life and any other. As we went inside, I paused at the doorway, looking back at the stars one more time. Thank you, I thought to whatever force had given me this second chance. Thank you for letting me choose love. Because in the end, that's what it had all been about. Not revenge, though my family had certainly faced justice. Not money, though we'd earned plenty. Not even the miracle of Adrian waking up, though that had changed everything. It had been about the moment I'd set down that pen and refused to sign those divorce papers. The moment I'd chosen to believe in love over logic, in hope over despair, in the impossible over the practical. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Adrian's grandfather, the one who'd left him the inheritance, stood at our door, which was impossible because he'd died 5 years before Adrian's accident. Hello, Emma, he said, his eyes twinkling with knowledge that seemed far too deep. May I come in? I stood frozen in the doorway. Adrian was at work, Hope at university. I was alone with a ghost, or something else entirely. You're dead, I said simply. Death is more complicated than most people think, he replied, as you well know, having died once yourself. My blood ran cold. How do you— May I come in? He repeated gently. I promise I mean no harm. In fact, I'm here to explain. I stepped aside, too shocked to refuse. He walked in with the same dignified bearing I remembered from my first life when I'd met him briefly at our wedding. Tea? I offered automatically. That would be lovely. As I prepared tea with shaking hands, he settled into our living room as if he belonged there. When I returned with the tray, he was looking at a photo of Hope. She has the gift too, he said softly, though it won't manifest unless she needs it. What gift? What are you talking about? He took the tea with a grateful nod. The gift of second chances. It runs in bloodlines, you see, but only activates under specific circumstances. Great love threatened by great injustice. You're saying Adrian— No, Adrian doesn't have it. I did, and I passed it to you the day you married him. I sank into a chair. That's impossible. Is it? He smiled. You died at 28, poisoned by your own sister, and woke up at 21 with all your memories intact. You changed everything, saved Adrian, built a better life. How is my being here any more impossible? But why? Why me? Because I saw your soul, he said simply. I was already dying when you married Adrian. Cancer, though we kept it quiet. I had maybe a month left. But I saw how you looked at my grandson, with a love so pure it shone. And I saw the darkness gathering around you. Your family's greed, the Blackwood family's ambitions, Chen Wei's obsession. I knew they would destroy you both. So you, what? Gave me magical rebirth powers? I gave you my last gift, he corrected. The ability to try again once, if your first life ended in tragedy. I died 2 weeks after your wedding, remember? The same day as Adrian's accident. I did remember. The family had been devastated by the double blow. The accident, I whispered. Was it really an accident? His face darkened. No, but that's not why I'm here. The past is past, in both timelines. I'm here about the future. What about it? Hope will face her own challenges, he said. Different from yours, but equally dangerous. The young man she brought home, David, he's more important than you know. Their love will be tested in ways that will make your trials seem simple. Are you saying she'll die? That she'll need the gift? Not if you prepare her, he said. That's why I'm here. To tell you what to watch for, what to prevent. He told me then about a conspiracy within the medical community, about researchers who would try to use David's work for terrible purposes, about how Hope would be caught in the middle. He gave me names, dates, warning signs. Why not just appear to her, I asked. Because the gift has rules, he explained. I can only appear to the one who carries it, you, and only once, when the next generation is in danger. Will I see you again? No, this is my final goodbye. But Emma, he stood, setting down his teacup. You've already changed so much. Adrian living, your family exposed, Chen Wei's downfall. None of that happened in the original timeline. You've rewritten fate itself. Trust yourself to protect Hope the same way. Wait, I called as he moved toward the door. In my first life after I died? What happened to Adrian? He paused. He found your diary, the one where you'd written about your regrets, your love for him, your wish for a second chance. He spent the rest of his life trying to find a way to bring you back. He died at 90, calling your name. His eyes were sad. That's when I knew I'd made the right choice, giving you the gift. Even death couldn't break your bond. Is that why you really gave it to me? Because Adrian loved me even after I was gone? I gave it to you because you deserved it, he said. But yes, knowing that your love transcended death itself confirmed I'd chosen correctly. He reached the door, then turned back one last time. Oh, and Emma? Your sister Melissa. She's about to do something unexpected. Don't trust it, but don't fear it either. Some redemptions are real, even if they can never erase the past. Then he was gone. Not walked away, simply gone, as if he'd never been there. Only the empty teacup proved I hadn't imagined it all. That evening, when Adrian came home, I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, then held me close. I believe you, he said. After everything we've been through, ghost grandfather giving magical rebirth gifts seems almost normal. He said Hope is in danger. Then we'll protect her, Adrian said simply. We've faced worse odds before. The next day, Melissa appeared on the news. She'd written a book, a memoir about growing up in a toxic family, about how greed and jealousy had poisoned her soul, about her journey to redemption. She was donating all proceeds to a charity for coma patients. I destroyed my relationship with the only person who ever truly loved me, she said in the interview. My sister Emma showed me what real strength looks like when she chose love over money. I can never undo what I did, but I can try to honor her example by helping others. The interviewer asked, Have you reconciled with your sister? No, Melissa said quietly, and I don't expect to. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. But that doesn't mean I can't build new ones for other people. Hope was watching with us. Is that your sister, Mom? The one who tried to... Yes, I said. Do you forgive her? I thought about it. I forgive her for my own peace. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean letting someone back into your life who's proven they'll hurt you. That's sad, Hope said. Sometimes sad is safer, Adrian told her. Your mother learned that the hard way. Over the next few months, I watched for the signs Adrian's grandfather had warned about. Sure enough, David started mentioning strange approaches from pharmaceutical companies, offers that seemed too good to be true. They want exclusive rights to my coma revival research, he told us over dinner. The money they're offering is insane. Who's they? I asked, though I already knew from the warning. Nexus Pharmaceuticals. They say they want to help coma patients, but something feels off. Trust your instincts, Adrian advised. I've dealt with Nexus. They're not interested in helping people. They're interested in controlling medical breakthroughs for profit. I'd already started my own investigation into Nexus, using connections from my translation company. What I found was disturbing. They were developing technology to induce controlled comas, claiming it was for surgical purposes, but the applications were far darker. David, I said carefully, whatever you do, don't give them your research, and don't let Hope get involved. Too late, I realized. Hope was already involved, having joined David's research team, and Nexus had noticed her, not for her scientific mind, but for her connection to Adrian and our family's wealth. The kidnapping attempt came 3 weeks later. Hope was leaving the lab late when a van pulled up, but we were ready. The security team Adrian had hired, without telling Hope, knowing she'd protest, intervened immediately. The would-be kidnappers were arrested, and under interrogation, they revealed Nexus's plan, forced David to surrender his research by threatening Hope. You knew, Hope accused us that night. You knew this would happen. We suspected, I corrected, and we prepared. How could you possibly have known? I exchanged glances with Adrian. We'd agreed to tell her when the time was right. Because I've lived through worse, I said, and I learned to see patterns of greed and violence before they fully form. I told her everything then, my death, my rebirth, the changes I'd made. She listened with the same skeptical yet open expression Adrian had worn years ago. That's impossible, she said finally. So is your father waking from a 3-year coma where everyone said he was brain dead? I pointed out. Our family specializes in impossible. David, who'd been silent throughout, finally spoke. It explains so much. The way you knew exactly which research to fund, which doctors to trust. You weren't guessing. You were remembering. Not remembering exactly, I said. This timeline is different, but patterns repeat. Hope was quiet for a long moment. Grandfather, Adrian's grandfather, he gave you this gift. He appeared to me 6 months ago, I admitted. Warned me about Nexus, about the danger to you and David. A ghost warned you about a pharmaceutical conspiracy, Hope said flatly. Our family really does specialize in impossible, Adrian said with a slight smile. The Nexus situation escalated quickly after the failed kidnapping. They tried legal means, lawsuits, patent challenges, attempting to discredit David's research. When that failed, they targeted our family businesses, but we were ready for that too. Years of fighting the Blackwood family and my own relatives had taught us about corporate warfare. Marcus stood with us, using his position to block Nexus's attempts at hostile takeovers. Grandfather Chen, still alive at 93, threw his support behind us as well. You saved my granddaughter from a lifetime married to my worthless grandson, he said. This is the least I can do. The final confrontation came at a medical conference where David was presenting his research. Nexus's CEO, a man named Harrison Blackstone, tried one last gambit, publicly accusing David of stealing the research from Nexus. But I'd found the real truth. Harrison Blackstone was connected to the same people who'd caused Adrian's accident 20 years ago, a shadowy group that profited from medical patents by any means necessary. Interesting accusation, I said, standing up in the conference hall. Especially coming from the man whose company funded the attempted murder of my husband 20 years ago. The hall erupted. Security moved in as I presented the evidence, documents I'd spent months gathering, connections I'd traced through shell companies and defunct organizations. Harrison tried to run but was arrested at the door. The investigation that followed exposed not just Nexus's crimes, but an entire network of medical corruption. How did you know where to look? The lead investigator asked me. I had a good teacher, I said, thinking of Adrian's grandfather. He showed me that evil tends to follow patterns. With Nexus destroyed and David's research protected, Hope and David were free to continue their work. They developed new protocols for coma patients that increased revival rates by 300%. They named it the Emma Protocol, much to my embarrassment. You earned it, Hope said. You're the one who proved that love and dedication could achieve medical miracles. At Hope's wedding to David 3 years later, I saw him again. Adrian's grandfather, standing at the back of the church, translucent but smiling. He nodded once, then faded away. His work was done. The next generation was safe. Melissa attended the wedding. I'd finally agreed to meet her after her years of genuine charity work. She was different, humbled, quieter, bearing the weight of her past actions. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. I just wanted to thank you. Your strength in choosing Adrian, in standing against all of us, it saved me from becoming a complete monster. You saved yourself, I said. I just showed you a mirror. In another life, I killed you, she said quietly. I know that sounds crazy, but I've had dreams. We all have our demons, I interrupted. What matters is what we do in this life. She nodded and kept her distance for the rest of the wedding, respectful of the boundaries I'd set. Chen Wei died in prison in another country, finally facing justice for his many crimes. My parents lived quietly in a small apartment, my father working as a bookkeeper, my mother as a shop clerk. They'd learned humility too late, but at least they'd learned it. The Blackwood family business thrived under Marcus's leadership, with Adrian as chairman. We'd restructured it completely, making it a force for good rather than greed. On Hope's 30th birthday, the same age I'd been when I'd gotten my second chance at life, she pulled me aside. Mom, I need to tell you something strange. I've been having dreams. Dreams where things go wrong, where David dies in a lab accident, where I make different choices. They feel so real. My blood ran cold. How long? A few months since the pregnancy. Hope was 3 months pregnant with her first child. The gift was preparing, just in case. Listen to me, I said urgently. Those aren't just dreams, they're warnings, possibilities. If something happens, if you die and wake up in the past, you'll know what to do. Mom, that's impossible. So was your father waking up. So was me knowing about Nexus before they struck. Our family doesn't do normal hope. We do miraculous. I told her everything Adrian's grandfather had told me about the gift, about its rules and limitations. So I might die? She asked, hand on her stomach. Not if we're careful, I said. The dreams are warnings. Tell me about them. Every detail. Together, we prevented the lab accident that would have killed David. We avoided the investment that would have bankrupted them. We sidestepped every tragedy her dreams foretold. The gift isn't just about second chances, I realized. It's about learning to prevent the need for them. Years flowed by. Adrian and I grew old together, something I'd never gotten to do in my first life. We watched Hope's children grow, saw David's research save thousands of coma patients, witnessed the empire of kindness we'd built flourish. On my 70th birthday, surrounded by family, I thought about the journey. In my first life, I died at 28, poisoned and alone. In this life, at 70, I was loved, fulfilled, at peace. Any regrets? Adrian asked that night, his hair silver now, but his eyes still warm. How could I regret anything that led us here? I replied. Even the 3 years of me being unconscious? Especially those 3 years, I said. They taught me that love isn't about the easy moments. It's about staying when everyone tells you to leave. Adrian's grandfather appeared one last time that night, visible only to me. He looked peaceful, proud. The gift passes on, he said simply. Hope's daughter will carry it, and her daughter after that. The family line is protected. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. Thank you, he replied, for proving that love is stronger than death itself. When I died at 92, Adrian holding my hand, I wasn't afraid. I'd lived 2 lifetimes fully. One teaching me what not to do, the other showing me what was possible when you chose love over fear. My last words were the same ones I'd said every day for 70 years. I choose you, always. Adrian lived another 3 years, spending his days telling our story to anyone who'd listen. The story of a woman who chose to stay with a comatose man who fought the entire world for love, who got a second chance and made it count. When he died, Hope said he was smiling, his last words being, "Emma, you stayed." Our story became legend in medical circles, proof that consciousness could exist where science saw none, that love could achieve what logic called impossible. But for us, it was simpler than that. It was just 2 people who refused to give up on each other, even when death itself tried to separate them. In the end, that's all love really is. The choice to stay when leaving would be easier, to fight when surrender would be logical, to believe in impossible things because the alternative is unthinkable. I'd been reborn to learn that lesson, and I'd insisted on marrying the brain-dead vegetable to teach it to the world. He woke up the day they cut me off because that's when I proved that my love wasn't about money or family or social standing. It was just about him and me and the impossible, beautiful life we'd build together. In every lifetime, in every timeline, in every possibility, I would always choose him. And that choice, that insistence on love over logic, changed everything, forever.